Hello, all my CEO babes. I'm so excited to do this quick mini training with your girl, the peppy, the awesome human being. That is me. I just got to celebrate me because why not? But without further ado, let's kind of really get into it. So, really, what we're going to talk about today is if you're that person who spent 5+ hours in the DMs and you got no sales calls, and you maybe you're feeling like a little bit of like a failure. I want you to know, A, you're not alone, but B, it is completely normal. It is okay. It happens. But if you're doing conversation outreach, you definitely know that it takes time in order for a lead to go to a sale or a lead to go to the next process, the next qualification process. But the thing that I want you to know again is that you're not alone. And really, let's talk about how you can fix that. So, without further ado, who am I? This lovely gal right here. My name is Tina Lopez. I am a lead gen automation coach, helping online coaches, consultants, and agency owners really automate and scale their sales call process or their lead gen process without paying for ads or being on social media 24/7. So, if you're that person who's like, damn straight, I don't want to be on social media 24/7, or maybe you are that person was like, oh my God, Tina, like I've been on social media for 24/7, then this is you came to the right place. But also if you're someone who's like, I have ads, but I don't want to keep paying for ads, especially if they're not working or they're just getting really expensive and you are looking for an alternative route, then yes, you've also came to the right place. So without further ado, let's kind of get into the topic. But I also want to say, please don't keep me a secret. Feel free to screenshot this video and post it to your Instagram stories. Tag me at Tina Lopez Coaching. Don't keep me a secret. And I can share you to my audience and not keep you a secret either, so that we can drive traffic to your business and to your page and really just, have more business. So businesses helping businesses, business owners helping business owners. Yeah, that's the way that I call it. But in any case, let's kind of get into it. So you're that person who probably spent 5+ hours in the DMs and got no sales calls. Well, let's talk about that. Well, the first thing that I want you to know is that you do not need to be in the DMs 24/7 simply because if you are charging, let's just say, what number am I doing? If you're charging $200 to $1,000 an hour, you do not need to be doing the DMs. Or if you have a high ticket offer that's $1,000 plus, you do not need to be doing the DMs, right? Because let's think about this for a second. How the hell are you going to be charging $1,000 an hour or $1,000 plus offer and you're still doing $10 an hour tasks, or you're doing $3 an hour tasks, right? No, that does not make sense. And I'm not saying this to call you out or anything, but I'm just saying this to put in perspective, right? Now, if you're that person who's like, Tina, like, no, like my DMs are like my holy grail, like I cannot outsource that. Yes, you can. And yes, you probably should. Now, the reason why you probably should is because it's holding you back. Because, like, let's think about this. If you are spending 5+ hours in the DMs and you're not getting any sales calls, you're not getting leads that are pulling revenue in your business, then what was the point? What was the point of spending 5+ hours? Like, let's put into perspective. If your offer, or sorry, your hourly rate is $1,000 an hour, or let's do $200 on the high, at the low end, right? That's $1,000. You spent 5 hours in the DMs. That's $1,000 that you could have made with your time if you went elsewhere, right? That is an opportunity cost. There's a cost to you not scaling. There's a cost to you not growing your business. And it's going to cost you $1,000 or up to $5,000, right? Because if you're doing $200 an hour times 5 hours for doing the DMs at a minimum, that's $1,000. $1,000 an hour times 5 hours you being in DMs, that's $5,000, right? So there is an opportunity cost for you not doing this. Let me know if the numbers make sense. Comment in the chat and you're like, yeah, Tina, that makes sense, right? Because it does. And the thing is that you can easily outsource and automate your lead gen efforts at $10 an hour, less than that if you wanted to, but it doesn't cost a lot. What it costs is really your time to actually train the candidates, to train the individuals that are coming onto your team, because you know that there is an opportunity cost of scaling. You know that it's costing you by you not doing this already. It's costing your other businesses and mechanisms to fail, right? Let's really think about this. You spent 5+ hours in the DMs and you didn't get sales calls, or maybe you got one, which is really great. Like, I want to celebrate that. But you probably are at a point where you have clients, and those 5+ hours, like, you didn't give that full attention to your client because maybe you're doing boxer coaching or something like that, or you're helping them or emailing them, and you're scatterbrained. Like, your brain is in one area but your actions are in another area, right? And so it's kind of like in some ways you're becoming the bottleneck in your own business. And what I mean by bottleneck is, like, you're kind of getting in your own way. And I know if you're like a solopreneur and you've done it on your own all by yourself, you're probably like, Tina, I don't need help. Like, fuck, like, I've done this shit by myself. I can do it. Yeah, you can. You can totally do it by yourself, but do you really want to? Like, do you really want to be spending all your hours upon hours in the DMs and not be really showing up for your clients in the fullest way possible? Do you want to really say, no, I can't do certain, maybe it be speaking opportunities, podcast opportunities, running a podcast, doing a YouTube video, because you're like, oh no, like, I can't do it because I need to have conversations, right? There are opportunity costs for you not getting help, for you getting in your own way. And the thing that I need you to know is that it's not worth it. It's not worth your time, especially if you're charging anywhere from $200 to $1,000 an offer, or if you have $1,000 plus offer. Because if you're charging, let's just do the math here, $1,000 an hour of your time is $1,000. Let's make the numbers simple, right? You could, and like, still, let's just say you're hiring someone at $10 an hour. That's 100 hours that you could have had someone working with you. 10 times 100 is 1,000. Yeah. That's 100 hours that you could have had someone working with you doing this process. And therefore you can go make that $1,000 an hour and have someone who you're paying $10 an hour drive more revenue in your business. Therefore you can make more $1,000 an hour, right? So it all kind of stacks up. It all makes sense, because the thing is when you look at the numbers, there's an opportunity cost for you not scaling. Now, you're probably like, Tina, okay, I get it. I get why I need to do it. And I'm not trying to be rude, or I'm just trying to really put it into perspective here. You're probably like, okay, well, now I know the importance of not doing it, on why I should need to do it, but what do I do next? Well, first of all, I wanted to say, hi, how are you guys? For the individuals that are popping on live, so glad to have you live. I'm really happy to see you here. But the next step that you need to do is you need to identify the tasks that you no longer want to be doing, right? So for example, if DMs are the things that you don't want to do, write it down. If, scheduling posts are the things that you don't want to do, write it down. Put it all on a piece of paper so that you can identify the things that you're no longer going to be doing in your business, so that you can outsource that, but more importantly, no longer be the bottleneck in your business that's preventing you from growing your business. Now, the thing that you need to do is when it comes to, automating and outsourcing your back end, what we talk a lot about in, my program Conversation Funnels is we talk about, the automation process. We have a certain system in place where, those menial tasks, like for example, if you're leveraging Facebook to do your outbound marketing or your outbound outreach, like those things of like being in the Facebook groups, like friend requesting individuals, doing the initial outreach, doing the initial conversations, like that can genuinely be automated, and you don't need to be spending your time doing that, but B, spending, if you do have a VA, you don't need to be wasting that hourly time on a VA, because you could have a system in place in the back end doing it for you. Now, the next step when it comes to doing this is that, say, for example, we're going to go with the example of you don't have a VA. You need to hire a virtual assistant. Now, if you've hired a virtual assistant and you've had horror stories, let me know in the comments what your horror stories are. Like, just comment horror stories, and I would love to know, because I'm just a genuinely curious person. But back to the point. When it comes back to, the next step of outsourcing and sourcing candidates, I actually personally like Upwork. I really like Upwork simply because you can do a lot more filtration and have a higher criteria in terms of the candidates that are allowed to apply for your position. And the thing that I also like about Upwork is that it's honestly all taken care of for you. I know some coaches, consultants, and agency owners who pay them directly. Personally, when it comes to tax season, I just rather have Upwork figure that shit out. Like, it's not worth my time. And also Upwork has a lot of great benefits simply because you can track their timesheets, you can make sure that they're doing the work on hand. And honestly, I should be an affiliate for Upwork, but honestly, I really do love Upwork because you can find really great candidates from them. Now, just because you can find really great candidates does not mean that they're a good fit for your team. The way that you're going to find a good fit for the team is that you need to you need to interview these candidates. And the way you interview these candidates is, having a set of questions on their work ethic, having a set of questions on what are they going to do when you're not available, right? Because if you want to have that business where you're no longer in your business 24/7, then you need to have those mechanisms in place, but you also need to have candidates that can think on their feet, right? Because a lot of times, and there's nothing wrong with this, but a lot of times people don't need to be directed all the time. That's great. I love individuals that can take directions, but I also need someone who can not only take directions very well, but also can be self-motivated to figure shit out when shit hits the fan. Even if I'm not there, because I'm not going to be there in my business all the time. That's not the business that I like to run. I like to work on my business rather than in my business. And I can assume that you are that individual as well. So when you hire these candidates from doing the sourcing process, we talk about, in conversation funnels, the onboarding, the interviewing, all those things. Once when you have that set in stone, the next thing that you need to do is you need to delegate, right? So like what I mentioned earlier, talking a little bit about that document list of all the things that you don't want to do. Congratulations. Now you actually now you teach someone how to do it so that you no longer have to do it. And therefore you get your time back, right? Let's just think about this for a second. How important is your time, right? We put a dollar value at $200 to $1,000 an hour. If your time is that important to equate to that much money, then think about what you can be doing, not only revenue-wise with your time, but also just the time that you get to do just to relax, just to be happy. Like honestly, I'm just gonna go on a little tangent here. A lot of the entrepreneurs that we work with, they are tired. They are tired of doing the things that are just not worth their time in their business. You probably for a minute lost your passion because you're not focusing on your zone of genius anymore. You're focusing on the things you need in order to run a business. And it gets exhausting sometimes when you're not doing help. And being a solopreneur is great for some time, but it is not long term. Think about if you want to scale to 6, 7, 8 figures in your business, then you're going to need some help. And it's completely okay for you to ask for help. And it's worth your time. So going back to this of delegating, you have to allow the candidates to have a grace period. So usually my grace period recommendation is about 2 weeks. After you've created your training portal, after you've done all those things, you want to give them about 2 weeks to make sure that they can, figure it out. You want to make sure you show up for them, support them within those 2 weeks. And then after the 2-week process, they can feel free to do it on their own. Now, if they're not, progressing, or if they're not meeting their quotas or meeting their tasks, then you would have to have a conversation on whether or not this is a good fit. But you're going to have to learn this. And honestly, what I want you to know is that it takes time to do this process, especially in your business, and you're not alone. But more importantly, you need to go ahead and grab my Scale Your DMs checklist. This is literally the checklist that has been able to help people do those things of automating, outsourcing, more importantly, delegating the tasks so that you can delegate your revenue generating activities and get leads in your sleep without actually doing anything. And I know that's the business that you want to have, and that's the business that we're working towards, of working on your business and no longer in your business. So let me know if this makes sense. Feel free to comment in the box and say, yes, this is making sense. But if it's not making sense, also let me know as well. If you need any clarification on questions like that, feel free to put it in the chat. I will refer back to them, and I will go ahead and see how I can help you out. But without further ado, grab the checklist. It's going to be either in the link in the comments once when this training is over, or you can go ahead and comment DM, and I will send you the link personally. And you can also grab the link in my bio. So without further ado,